Let's look at number 4. We are going to solve using the quadratic formula. The quadratic formula is something that you will need to have memorized, and I have it written in red here. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And we do need to make sure that our equation is in standard form. Thankfully it is. Standard form is ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. It has everything on the left side equals 0 on the right side, and then it always goes x squared, and then x, and then whatever constant you have. So we can identify the a, b, and c from here. I can write down that a is equal to 2, and b is equal to negative 6, and c is equal to 1. And then I can take all of these numbers and plug them into my formula. I do recommend that you plug things in using parentheses. In fact, I'm going to go and modify my red formula, showing where the parentheses need to be. Every letter, A, B, C, should be wrapped in parentheses, with any details like negatives or exponents being on the outside of the parentheses. So this is the best practice for plugging numbers into a formula. So I'm just going to go through and start plugging things in. X is equal to negative parentheses b value, which is negative 6, plus or minus the square root of b squared. So b is in parentheses, exponent of 2 on the outside of the parentheses, so that's b squared, minus 4 times a in parentheses, times c in parentheses, all over big fraction bar. It should underline everything you've written down so far, all over 2a in parentheses. And this is now going to be an order of operations problem. I am going to put my attention on 3 different pieces separately. So this green box right here, you should simplify that as much as you can. And then this green box here on the inside of the square root, you should simplify that as much as you can. And then here on the bottom, simplify that as much as you can. And if you struggle with any of these, that is something you can type into your calculator. Any of these green boxes individually on their own can be typed into the calculator to help you simplify each of these things. Negative 6 is going to make a positive 6, plus or minus the square root of, I'll deal with that in a moment, all over 2 times 2 is 4. I really don't feel like doing this by hand or in my head, so I will ask my calculator for help. I'm going to do parentheses, negative 6, close parentheses, squared, and then minus 4 times 2 in parentheses, times 1 in parentheses. So I've written down everything that I had in that green box. Notice that I did not type in the square root. Sometimes the square root is nice and it's a perfect square. Sometimes it's not. So in the case where it's not, like this one, 28 is not a perfect square, you want to just evaluate the inside without trying to evaluate the square root at the same time. So we're just going to say square root of 28. Now I do need to simplify the square root of 28, so I'm going to do that. The square root of 28, that is the same thing as the square root of 4 times 7, and the square root of 4 is 2. So that is 2 square roots of 7 whenever I simplify that root. So we've got 6 plus or minus 2 square root of 7 all over 4. To continue this, I am going to split my fraction. We're going to rewrite this as 6 over 4 as a fraction on its own, and then plus or minus, whoops, that's not what I meant to write, 2 square root of 7, 2 square root of 7 all over 4 as its own fraction. And now I can reduce each of these fractions as best as I can. 6 over 4 will reduce by 2, and 2 over 4 will also reduce by 2. So that'll give me a final answer of 3 over 2 plus or minus the square root of 7 over 2. I believe that this is my answer, but I am going to check my work by plugging it in using the help of the calculator. So in my calculator, I'm going to type in what I think the answer is. I believe the answer is 3 over 2 plus square root of 7 over 2. Whoops, do the fraction first. Alpha y equals enter, square root of 7 over 2. We're going to store that into x. And then, I don't really care what this number is, I just care that whenever I plug it in, it balances. So now plugging it into the original equation, 2x squared minus 6x plus 1, 2x squared minus 6x plus 1. When I hit enter for my equal sign, I'm expecting to get an answer of 0. Let's see if that happens. Yes, it does. So we're good. I am going to check the other answer just to be safe. Not only do I think the answer is 3 over 2 plus square root of 7, I also think it's 3 over 2 minus square root of 7 over 2. Because the plus or minus is telling me that I have two answers. 3 halves plus root 7 over 2 and 3 halves minus root 7 over 2 are two separate answers. So plug that in. It's a different number, 0.1 instead of 2.8. And copy the original equation, hit enter to execute, and it does still balance. If, for whatever reason, I thought maybe the answer was 2, and I plug that into x, and I plug that into the equation, I can see that it does not give me a 0. It does not balance out correctly. So we do have the complete incorrect answer here, 3 halves plus or minus square root of 7 over 2.